So, goaltending is struggling this year because offense is back in the NHL. And so we're seeing some gaudy numbers we haven't seen in a long time. I'm talking the early 90s. And early 90s, Shannon, is kind of excited at what we're seeing right now. Let me just make sure that I'm not taking this outside of the area it needs to be in for everybody to be able to see it. And we're good. So, the Niemi in Pittsburgh is a good example. I'm going to go with goals against average and save percentage because those are the two that we use most often. Takes win-loss out of the record, and no, it doesn't take into account bad defense, but you know what? Why not? The Niemi right now has a 7.50 goals against and a 797 save percentage. There's bad, and then there's that. And I can guarantee you there's no one more upset with those numbers than Antti Niemi himself. Went to Pittsburgh to prove himself, took a large pay cut to go to Pittsburgh. This is a prove-it contract, and he hasn't been able to do it yet. If you're a Winnipeg fan and you're thinking, man, with Mason in net, things sure have been bad. And if you're not really paying attention to Mason, or how much more Winnipeg has to make up for goaltending issues when he's in net, there it is. I had some criticism for having Winnipeg still in the top 10. I can't drop them out of the top 10 for Mason because when Hellebuck's in net, they're 4-0. And Hellebuck's played much better than Mason thus far. and I believe Winnipeg's playing well. It's just been a matter of, bounces. And power rankings are one of those things, and I'm not necessarily going to get into that here other than just to say Mason does play a large role in keeping Winnipeg where they are because I don't think Mason's going to see the ice a lot if this keeps up. A surprise for me is Grubauer. Has a goals against of 5 and a save percentage of .848. And this is with a minimum of 3 games played, and he's played 3. That doesn't inspire confidence if you're Washington, and suddenly you can understand why Vegas would pass him up. Maybe Vegas saw something. Maybe there was something that George McPhee saw that made him say, you know what, this guy's numbers are better than what he is. He's not that goaltender. Louis Domingue. Which, really, you want Domingue to do better because it sounds pretty close to demand. So, you Domingue, come on. You really want him to play well. And this is the second time I've had to put these numbers on the board today. There's his 4.22 and his 868. Although he looks stellar compared to Niemi so far. He's allowed three goals less a game, and he's been allowing his save percentage is about 70 points higher. And it's still abysmal. The surprise on this list is Carey Price, who is sporting a 3.95 goals against and an 881 save percentage. People have been saying in comments, well, Price needs to demand a trade. Price is too good for this. Price is the best goalie in the world. I've said it. These numbers tell me I'm wrong. These numbers tell me everybody's wrong about Carey Price. These numbers tell me that Carey Price is having a poor season. And it's not necessarily going to get better. Now, where the surprises exist are on the other side of the board. So again, minimum of 3 games played. Michael Neuwirth is allowing 2.5 goals less per game than Price, and his save percentage is about 70 points higher. I don't get it either. I'm just reporting the facts here. The underrated, criminally underrated, Corey Crawford is sporting a 1.86 goals against average and a 945. I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to do 5 of both. Quick is next on the list, and of course his numbers took a dive last night. And by a dive, I mean 1.99 goals against and a .938 save percentage. That's still pretty good. Jonathan Quick is still having a very, very good season. I don't have space to rate. He's just too good right now. So I'm just going to rate it like that. Rene, 2.01 and .932 save percentage. Every year we expect him to fall apart. Every year he proves us wrong. And then, you're not reading this wrong. You're absolutely not. With a 2.06 goals against average and a .936 save percentage is Subban. So some of this is smoke and mirrors because it's a 3-game span, right? So you're going to expect these guys to get better. Now, if you're a fan of teams, which one do I not expect to get better? I think Niemi will get better, but what you see is what you get too. His better is average. His better is about a 900 save percentage. 900 from here will get him up to about 890 for the year. Won't bring him back. There are Penguins fans I've seen asking about Tristan Jarry. Absolutely, Tristan Jarry should be on the back burner. And the longer that he's sporting numbers like this, the longer and more thought will be given to it by Jim Rutherford in terms of bringing up Jarry and throwing him to the Wolves, because this is bad. And this shows just how much Pittsburgh lost when they lost Fleury. Replacing a great goalie, and Fleury was a great goalie, is not easy. And watch for a video in the next couple of days where I'm going to discuss the heirs to the great goaltenders. So the great goaltenders that have moved on and the guys who've replaced them, and how it's traditionally been very, very difficult to replace them. And you can't mention Patrick Roy because Roy didn't replace Ken Dryden. There was a gap in between where there were a number of goalies for Montreal. And then they got Patrick Roy. And between Patrick Roy and Carey Price, there was a big gap. And while Corey Schneider's been good for Jersey, you can't argue that there hasn't been a drop in terms of the team's fortunes and the goaltending with Corey Schneider as to where it was with Marty Brodeur. It's not fair. Replacing great goalies is not fair. And when they went from Fleury to Niemi, I was stunned. Mason will get better. This number is at least 2.5 goals above where he ends up at the end of the year. But Mason is not... I don't know. He might be playing his way out of the league too. Grubauer should get better. So I'll put an up arrow next to Grubauer because Grubauer should get better. This is just a slow point. Demang, I don't know, because Demang didn't play great last year either. He had a nice run at the end of the year to get himself up to a 900 save percentage, much like Eddie Lack did in Carolina, but he was pretty brutal at times last year. I don't know how much longer Arizona sticks with him before they say, you know what, we're going to look to a number 3 option. And Hill could be a viable number 3 option. Absolutely. And Price won't stay here. These numbers will be forgotten by January. But I don't know where the ceiling is for him now. Because this is over 7 games. These guys, it's all less games. It's easier to get these numbers down. This is 7 games. This isn't a small sample size now. So it's going to be hard for him to get back in line. Now, on the other side of the ledger, Michael Neuwirth is not going to end up with a 957 save percentage. But this early start, as long as he can play average goaltending from here and keep his number around a 920 save percentage for the year, he'll still be an NHL goaltender. Coming into this year, he could have been in his last year. Crawford, of all of the guys up here, the fact that these 3 from 2 through 4 on this list are established starters shows you that Chicago, LA, and Nashville are okay in net. Now, Chicago has Forsberg putting up decent numbers as a backup. Quick, Kemper's put up good numbers as a backup so far. Rene Saros, not so much. So that could lead to Rene being played more than these two, and Rene's numbers suffering as a result. So if you have him in a pool, he may get you a lot of wins, but if you're looking for goals against and save percentage, his may drop because he may need to play more games than he should, especially at this stage of his career. So there you go. The best of times, the worst of times. It's early, but we're up to October 22nd. We're almost at the end of October, and these numbers aren't going to change very much over the next 9 days, unless Niemi puts up a couple of shutouts or Price rediscovers his form from end of last season. So, which goalies surprised you the most? And which one do you think has had the rough start and is going to turn it around? And if you're a fan of one of these teams or one of these teams, well, what do you think? Because I really think this year is going to be an unusual season. I think the weird start, the fact that we're seeing gaudy numbers like this, I'm actually kind of happy about it. It would be nice to see a goaltender win the Jennings Trophy with a goals against average of 2 or higher, and to see goals against averages go up, because the more scoring there is in the league, the more intrigue there is in general. Because when you're playing these defensive systems and everybody's winning games 2-1 or losing games 2-1, it's really easy to mask when your team's kind of bad. When numbers get into this range, you can't mask anything. You can't mask it at all. So the trap is dead right now. Pretty much dead. Because forwards aren't sticking to the script and defensemen are pinching way too much. This isn't just a one-team thing either. It's happening a lot. I keep seeing games, almost every game I watch, I'm like, wait, he's up. Why is he in front of the net? And it's one of their top defensemen, leaving one defenseman on the point. And before I can even say, that doesn't seem like a good idea, there's a 2-on-1 the other way, which very often results in a goaltender being the victim. Let me know what you guys think. Which goalie surprised you the most, good or bad? And let me know who's lurking under the radar right now. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe. I'll talk to you again soon.